This hope until in the fullness of time.
There are three leading candidates for the Heisman, and one of them is number 19, Eric Dickerson of SMU. As senior, Dickerson had an outstanding year, running for over 1,600 yards as he scored 17 touchdowns, leading the Mustangs to the top of the Southwestern Conference and a trip to the Cotton Bowl. If a quarterback wins, it'll be John Elway of Stanford. His passing for the Cardinals accounted for 24 touchdowns. As senior, Elway produced over 3,200 yards with his strong right arm and consistent pinpoint passing. Elway's been pretty much a one-man band for the Cardinals of Stanford and certainly deserving of Heisman honors. But the leading candidate for the Heisman comes out of Georgia, number 34, Herschel Walker. Many felt he should have won it last year. Walker is now a junior, and he has paced the unbeaten Bulldogs to a ranking of number 1 in the country and a chance for a national championship, needing just one more win. That'll be in the Sugar Bowl on the 1st of January. Walker, with his great speed and power and balance, played his first 4 games this year with one hand in a cast. He still ran for over 1,700 yards and scored 16 touchdowns. The Heisman winner will be officially announced tomorrow in New York. Jack.
The early momentum belonged to the Rams, who routinely beat the 49ers secondary. This 27-yard reception by Wendell Tyler gave L.A. a 10-3 lead. But the 49ers fought back. Russ Francis faked an end run and threw to Dwight Clark for a 45-yard gain to set up a field goal. On their next possession, Joe Montana hit Jeff Moore for a 38-yard touchdown play, and San Francisco led 13-10. Suddenly, nothing was going right for the Rams. Montana read the blitz here and found Moore again for a 24-yard touchdown play, 20-10 San Francisco. And when L.A. failed to convert on a 3rd-and-1 screen, Coach Ray Malavasi was absolutely livid. He must have gotten through. The Rams took the lead 24-23 in the 4th on Wendell Tyler's 15-yard run. But on the kickoff, Dana McLemore found the seams and nearly broke it with a 45-yard run back to set up the winning touchdown, a 1-yard run by Moore. The 30-24 win gives the 49ers a 2-3 record. The Rams are 1-4.
First half action, the New York Knicks in the blue. Edmund Sherrod will take the steal. Passes to Bernard King to Marvin Webster. Webster with the slam dunk. For Washington, Don Collins had a good game tonight. Here, the baseline drive and the dunk. Collins had 21 points. The Bullets led by 4 at halftime. Second half, Collins underneath for the layup. The Bullets had an 8-point lead. Jeff Rulin had an excellent game for the Bullets. He had 23 points. Here, he beats Bill Cartwright for the basket. In defeat, Marvin Webster, a superb game offensively and defensively. Webster had 8 block shots on the night. Here, he rejects Jeff Rulin. However, the Bullets were just too much for the Knicks tonight. Ricky Mahorn, the slam dunk ahead of the field. Mahorn had 14 points. Greg Ballard will finish off the Knicks. The Bullets beat New York 105-98. I'm Michael Stone for NBC News.
The top game in our area tonight will be in Dadeville. The defending 2A champion Tigers put their title on the line against last year's 1A champ Hazelwood. The visiting Golden Bears are unbeaten through 13 games. Dadeville's lost twice this season. Hazelwood's one of the better high school teams in any classification, so the Tigers will have their hands full at home. Sweetwater goes for the 1A championship at home tonight. The Bulldogs meet Akron. The 3A crown will be decided in Alabaster this evening as Thompson entertains Oxford. Thompson boasts of 2 of the state's top running backs in Arthur Johnson and Demetrius Treat. They ran wild in this first-round defeat of Stanhope Elmore. Oxford's playing in the finals for their first time. The 4A champion will be crowned tomorrow afternoon at Birmingham's Legion Field. Top-ranked Enterprise taking on Barry of Birmingham. The Wildcats are considered one of the top high school teams in the country. Many feel that the real battle for the state championship was his 27-20 win over Jeff Davis in the quarterfinals. But the Bucks may have something to say about that. After getting off to a 1-3-1 start, Berry has fought back to make it all the way to the finals. All of tonight's games will kick off at 7:30. The 4A championship is tomorrow at 1:30. And TV 12 Sports will be in Dadeville tonight and Birmingham tomorrow to bring you highlights. Rick Pons, WSFA TV Sports.
If you've lately had a yen for a gem or even a fancy for a fossil, then the Montgomery Gem and Mineral Society's annual show may be just the place for you. The show has drawn dozens of dealers and exhibitors from around the nation to Montgomery this weekend, and they've brought with them thousands of stones. Finished and unfinished, precious and semi-precious, there are plenty of people around to tell you the difference and to explain just how many things can be done with minerals and gems.
We are rockhounds, and the juveniles are called pebble pups.
James Davis is a charter member of the Montgomery Club, and for him, rock collecting and finishing is a hobby.
There's a lot of difference between a rockhound and a geologist. A geologist, he studies all this about where rocks are formed and how they're formed. Well, when we rockhounds go out and find, we just say, thank goodness we're there. And we don't care how it got there, as long as we found it, it was ours.
But for others, this is a business, and this hasn't been the best of years. They admit what they're selling are luxury items. But despite any economic hardships, members of the Gem and Mineral Society hope that shows like this one will keep alive the interest in rock hunting and ensure plenty of rockhounds for the years ahead. Tom Foreman, WSFA TV News.
43 to the law group.
Need that light.
How much rent?
They can buy this straight hunting license for $200 or the fishing license for $100. What we do, the law requires that we take the principal from the sale of that license and put it in trust. And we can only get the interest off of it back into the Game and Fish Fund be used for operating each year. And of course, if we can sell a $300 license and put it in trust and get interest at 10%, we'd be getting $30 a year. And of course, that stays there forever. And if that person becomes deceased, that $300 is still producing revenue. So we feel like it's an excellent opportunity to set up a sound funding base for the Game and Fish program. And at the same time, it affords grandparents and parents to give what I consider an outstanding gift, to give a young 16-year-old his first hunting or fishing license or a combination. That he or she's going to carry that with them the rest of their lives. And he'll always remember, well, Granddad or Dad gave me this. So we've already sold over $90,000 worth of these licenses, and we really hadn't, promoted them or put them in the advertising scheme, anything like that. And
The Auburn Board of Trustees meeting was set for 2 o'clock, but it was pushed back 2 hours. Shortly after 2, Governor Fob James' press aide, Wendy Lovell, announced the board wouldn't convene until 4. Mr. Lovell says the full board, including Chairman Fob James, withdrew into executive session at 10 this morning and was working without interruption. According to Mr. Lovell, the board had called in various members of university personnel, but he couldn't be more specific. At this point, no one knows if the trustees will take any action concerning the controversy surrounding university president Dr. Hanley Funderburk. Faculty Senate Chairman Gordon Bond would certainly like to see the board act today. The faculty voted for Dr. Funderburk's resignation about a month ago. The faculty claims Dr. Funderburk hasn't created a sense of trust and purpose at the school. But so far, the trustees have stood by Dr. Funderburk. About 2 weeks ago, Dr. Bond wrote a letter to the trustees asking them to act by the end of the fall quarter or next Thursday. Well, today, Auburn students started fall quarter examinations, and it appears Dr. Funderburk is facing his own test as well. Reporting from Auburn, Susan Silvernail, WSFA TV News.
Come together in full recognition of each other's humanity and equality. And that race remained high, and at the color of a man. After the surgery that saved my life, one of the many wires and telegrams came to my room.
I want to say to you, Mr. Nixon, Reverend Jordan, it's good to be here briefly to commemorate with you the service that you.
Montgomery police are called to 1612 Pauline Street to report of a shooting in progress around 8:30 last night. When authorities arrived on the scene, they found a 19-year-old woman, Edna Dean, and 2 small children wounded from shotgun pellets. Police say that 25-year-old Lawrence Williams allegedly fired 2 rounds from a .410 shotgun from the back of his house to the front porch of a house where Miss Dean was standing. Miss Dean was wounded in the neck, while the children, a 2-year-old girl and a 3-year-old boy, were wounded in the arm. All injuries are considered minor. Neighbors told police that Williams ran into his house at 2284 Lower Wetumpka Road with the shotgun. Authorities obtained a search warrant and kicked in the door to the house. A search of the home failed to turn up Williams. About 2 hours later, police were called back to Pauline Street by a neighbor who said that Williams was allegedly loading up his shotgun there. Police arrived on the scene and found Williams hiding under a house on Traction Avenue. Police say that Williams is charged with attempted murder in connection with the incident. A loaded .410 shotgun was also recovered when Williams was arrested.
Auburn came to the top of our list on Monday morning when, after Florida lost by a pretty good score to Georgia. And, of course, Auburn came to the top of our list at that time, and we stayed with them, and we're just thrilled to death now.
What do you think the win over Alabama will do as far as the Tangerine Bowl is concerned?
Oh, well, that'll give us that prestige. Of course, the sellout, we were practically assured of a sellout, and I doubt if we only had, my executive director told me yesterday, we only had less than 2,000 tickets. And we were hoping to get half of Boston College tickets back probably for y'all, and we were told that the second day they'd sold 6,000 of their 8,400 already.
Back, huh?
So we took off 6,000 off a public sale for Auburn, and they're getting about 15,000. So that looks like the best they're going to do.
Oh, well, that's terrific.
You're going to have about 15,000 tickets.
Okay, now you would like to have major television coverage one day, do you think?
We're working on that, and we have met with major networks in the last 30 days. We met with NBC down there, and they said they'd talk to us after the first year.
This game won't hurt that.
It won't hurt at all, and we're talking with the Florida Citrus Commission. There's a serious negotiation about changing our game, the name of our game, to the Florida Citrus Bowl or the Florida Bowl, and promote citrus. And if we do, that'll push our payroll up approximately nearly $500,000. So once we get in that ballpark with $500,000, the major network, we're off and running.
The Board of Trustees was supposed to meet publicly at 2 o'clock, but the board members sent word that they were tied up in executive session and wouldn't come out until 4. About 90 teachers, students, and alumni settled in for the wait. It turned out to be quite a long vigil. The board did not appear until 7 o'clock tonight. Chairman of the board, Governor Fob James, said the board members had not been able to reach any decisions, that they had talked with a dozen or so of the university deans and vice presidents about Dr. Hanley Funderburk, but that there would be no resolution today. Governor James said that a discussion or dialogue had started today that he wanted to continue until the board's next regularly scheduled meeting on January 7th.
The board instructed Dr. Funderburk and those deans and those vice presidents and the faculty people to be meeting. I would say, I'd say almost it would be necessary that they meet and get eye to eye.
These are the same groups that have been at odds for the past few months. The faculty asked for Dr. Funderburk's resignation last month. The faculty has accused Dr. Funderburk of failing to instill a sense of trust and purpose in the school. They also blame him for the recent resignations of 2 top administrators. The Faculty Senate had hoped the board will put an end to all the bickering at today's meeting. Faculty Senate Chairman Gordon Bond says he has some misgivings, but he's willing to wait another 30 days.
Perhaps that will bring an end to this continuing turmoil. The university is suffering, the research, the university fund drive, all aspects of the university is suffering as a result of this.
Last week, one of the trustees suggested a compromise that involves creating new administrative positions. But Mr. James says the proposal for a chancellery system was not discussed specifically during today's 9-hour-long executive session. When Mr. James was asked what he thought would happen at the January 7th meeting, he said he preferred not to speculate. Susan Silvernail, WSFA TV News.
It is now a great pleasure to announce the winner of the 1982 Heisman Memorial Trophy from the University of Georgia, Herschel Walker. And would you say a few words, Herschel, for the folks back home? I think they're waiting.
You know, before I started college, I came from a very, very small town in Wrightsville, at least in Georgia, called Wrightsville, Georgia. And I still remember one of the first speeches that I ever made, and that was, people help to make better people. And in my walk to Georgia, I found that that statement is true, because I've been surrounded by fine athletes and fine people that have helped me to be the outstanding person that I am as my coaches. But I like to give a big thanks to the team, because I think life is made up of teams, and I think if it wasn't for them, I couldn't be here.
Notre Dame in white was led by senior guard John Paxson. Paxson with 25 points tonight. Now, Notre Dame's Bill Varner will miss right here. UCLA gets the fast break going. Ralph Jackson gets it. He feeds Darren Day for the layup. The Bruins led 35-31 at halftime. Freshman Tim Kempton kept the Irish close in the second half. He had 17 points. And with a minute and a half left in the game, Notre Dame trailing 61-60. John Paxson with the long jumper. The Irish lead 62-61. Then with 8 seconds to go, Notre Dame up 64-63. Ralph Jackson drives to give UCLA a 1-point lead. John Paxson could only heave a desperation shot at the buzzer. It didn't go. UCLA edges Notre Dame 65-64. Scott Clark for NBC News.
He was acknowledged as the leader of the Southern movement for civil rights, but it was the E.D. Nixon who got out to as treasurer. He was at the very heart of every attempt to secure civil and human rights for black people, and he did it when the dangers were great and the lynch mobs were riding high. So E.D. Nixon is a man of courage and a man of vision, a man who refused to resign his human rights in the face of an unconstitutional and barbaric system. But it was E.D. Nixon who saw that the struggle would be a long one and called for a different kind of leader. And he reached out and drew Martin into the campaign. It said to me that political differences must be subordinated to common humanity. It said to me that we are both human beings who have had to reach out to each other on the basis of our shared humanity. It said to me that Governor Wallace, too, knows what it is to feel the pain of a would-be assassin's bullet.
Thank you very much for a very kind introduction. I will say to you and Mr. Nixon, the Vernon Jordan, it's good to be here. Briefly,
have the public to make contributions to a fund within the Game and Fish Fund to manage for those species of wildlife that we don't hunt. I'm talking about songbirds, the birds of prey, and even the alligators and things of that type that have not had too much attention because no one was providing any funds to do it. But the legislature passed a bill that says that any person that has a refund coming on a state income tax will be allowed, when they get notice, to check off $5, $10, $15, or $20 on line 32 of that notice and send it back, and whatever amount they check, they'll reduce that from their income tax return, a refund. And we think it's good because people that's already paid the tax feel like they've already lost it. So when they feel like they're getting some back, it's not as hard to let a little of that go as it would if they still had it and never had lost it in the first place. And in Colorado last year, they raised approximately $700,000 under this system. And what we want to do is to take the money and work with the home builders out in the subdivision. When they build a big subdivision, we want to go in there and work with them with qualified wildlife people to design the home building program to encompass wildlife habitat for songbirds and so forth.
Yeah, since 10 o'clock this morning, met with
the board is determined to come to grips and resolve the problems that cause unrest and in some ways threaten the progress made in Albany.
Exercise each board member judgment on a particular issue before
At the next meeting on January 7th. Thanks. Any further comments? Gentlemen, I move.
And I think the board is very badly divided on the issue. And perhaps by January the 7th, when the governors indicated they will meet again, perhaps that can be resolved and they can make a decision in the best interest of Albany University. That's our hope.
Take time to participate in this program. He's earned the Distinguished Service Medal, the Legion of Merit, Distinguished Flying Cross, the Merit Service.
We as a nation receive great returns from our investment in higher education. The Association Council for Policy Analysis and Research, that's part of the American Council on Education, recently said that investment in post-secondary education is directly associated with regional economic development.
We do thank thee for the intimacy existing between husband and wife, father and mother, brothers and sisters and children.
One morning several weeks ago, R.C. Hester woke up, turned on the TV, and got an idea. The idea was to bring together all the couples in Randolph County that had been married for more than 50 years.
This will help draw us all closer together. I'm not old enough to be a member of this senior party, married-wise. My wife and me have been married only 46 years.
My reaction when Mr. Hester first mentioned this was that it would be a great thing, because as the editor of the local newspaper here, I had been impressed myself with the number of Golden Wedding anniversary write-ups we've had turned in.
And so today, with a little help from a local newspaper and a radio station, R.C. Hester's idea came to life. At least 75 couples married 50 years or more gathered in the First Baptist Church at Wedowee to visit and to be honored. Some of the people at today's meeting think Randolph County has an unusually high number of couples that have been married for more than 50 years. In any event, it is hoped by many that this will become an annual affair, a yearly celebration of years gone by and of years yet to come. Tom Foreman, WSFA TV News, reporting from Wedowee.
We want to vote! We want to vote! We want to vote!
Walker. He wears number 34, is 6 feet 1 inch tall, and weighs 222 pounds. He has an 18.5-inch neck and thighs that are bigger than the average beauty queen's waist. He practically owns the NCAA's record book for running backs.
I thought that this year to be sort of like I didn't want to win. It really didn't matter because I was always up for the running. But I think this year, because I won, it means a great deal more because I have it now.
Probably break the NCAA's all-time running and scoring records next season. He's confident he'll do that because he keeps getting better.
I think now I run the ball a lot more. I'm aware of what's going on the field. Sort of now I'm more of a leader than I was when I was a freshman.
Walker hopes to be back in New York next year at this time as only the second person in history to win the Heisman Trophy twice.
It is now a great pleasure to announce the winner of the 1982 Heisman Memorial Trophy from the University of Georgia, Herschel Walker. And would you say a few words, Herschel, for the folks back home? I think they're waiting.
You know, before I started college, I came from a very, very small town in Wrightsville, at least in Georgia, called Wrightsville, Georgia. And I still remember one of the first speeches that I ever made, and that was, "People help to make better people." And in my walk to Georgia, I found that that statement is true because I've been surrounded by fine athletes and fine people that have helped me to be the outstanding person that I am as my coaches. But I like to give a big thanks to the team because I think life is made up of teams, and I think if it wasn't for them, I couldn't be here.
On the surface, there's little to recommend Goodwin Myrick for the positions he holds. Myrick is president of the Alabama Farm Bureau Federation, which numbers 250,000 members. He is president and chief executive officer of the hugely successful Farm Bureau insurance companies. Yet you would find nothing in his resume to suggest that Myrick was qualified to hold either of these lofty positions. His resume would read something like this: education, high school dropout; insurance experience, none. But don't confuse the Goodwin Myrick on paper with the Goodwin Myrick in the flesh. Don't be fooled by his country boy manner, by his corny jokes, by his unlikely nickname of Puddin', a moniker he's been stuck with since boyhood days when he could eat more banana pudding than anybody in the community of Smoke Neck in Etowah County. And before you ask, we better explain that name of Smoke Neck. The families in that area burned pine stumps in their fireplaces, and the smoke left a very visible black deposit on their necks. You talk about ring around the collar, they had it. Goodwin Myrick is no stranger to the Farm Bureau. His father was a charter member of the organization, and after he lost most of his vision while dynamiting stumps, young Myrick drove his father to the meetings. It was his father's accident that indirectly led Myrick dropping out of high school. Both of his older brothers had gone into service during World War II, and Myrick was granted a deferment to operate the family dairy. He dropped out of high school after his junior year, and he never did return. In the ensuing years, Myrick's dairy operation prospered. He became heavily involved in banking and land development in and around Gadsden. He also became heavily involved in the Farm Bureau and was serving as first vice president when he decided 4 years ago to run for president. He won a smashing victory over the longtime incumbent, Jimmy Hayes. There were some who may have figured that the dairy farmer from Smoke Neck would be out of his league when he came to Montgomery. Those who figured that figured wrong. Beneath his easygoing exterior is a smart, tough, hard-nosed administrator. More importantly, he is a man who knows what he can do and what he can't do. He hasn't tried to be a technician. Instead, he has surrounded himself with talented people, challenged them to do the job, and given them the freedom to do it. The record suggests this approach has worked. The Federation is bigger and stronger than ever, The insurance companies have never been so healthy. If Goodwin Myrick is anything, he is a motivator, he's a communicator. He can get his message across. And it's no coincidence that on his office wall is a small plaque which bears this message. Tact is the art of telling someone to go to hell in such a manner that he anticipates the trip. Goodwin Myrick, a very interesting person.
Today marked the third anniversary for the We People Christmas tree ceremony in Montgomery. Children of all ages gathered at Union Station this afternoon to decorate the tree that was planted there 3 years ago on Arbor Day. Goodwill Ambassador for Montgomery, Mrs. Betty Fitzgerald, says the We People Christmas tree was thought up after she heard from children who were bored over the Christmas holidays. Youngsters get a chance to use their imagination and skill making decorations to go on the tree. Several groups took part in today's ceremony, including the Children's Center Decibels, a bell choir.
Hi, Mr. Cox. How are you?
All of them come with you. I'm pretty close. A long way to go down. I live we have
Get those paper bags.
Yeah. That's what we're trying to discuss about tonight.
You got a horseshoeing thing around here, don't you? You have sort of a horseshoe corridor going around. Well, that did it?
That's it.
Okay, okay, no, yeah.
If you put the horseshoe, I'm going to lose 6 minutes.
Right. That's what they're thinking about doing in the city. They got the horseshoe. You've new homes installed as
They've already been shipped, but they haven't got any yet. They haven't organized. They've got like a regular bag.
The new lights have armor glass on them or something? The new lights have armor glass on them or something, or?
They have a safety glass like this over here. This is where they propose to put an exit.
You would need a shade charge to get through that.
See those things. The fire marshal, what was they talking about the lights? They won't light this is the light they were talking about.
I know you like to do that too. Thank you.
Come in here.
Channel 12, Dr. Montgomery, Channel 12.
What's up?
I did it. Film inmates too, huh?
These are the type of lights we've got ordered. Yeah, we need to get a safety cap. But anything to burn.
We can get by putting one on this thing, coming in right here, and putting here, coming in this wall. What would be convenient for them at on this thing? Well, if you go through the wall here and put one.
That's our own. We want to buy that.
We want to get them out ready to go.
Was it one of your workers?
And of course, the cost of living here in Washington is extremely high, higher than it is in Alabama. However, I have opposed every pay raise since coming to the United States Senate, and I will oppose this one. This country finds itself deep in economic despair. Today in this nation, there are more unemployed people than ever before in our history. Alabama now has the highest unemployment rate of any state in the nation. Federal deficits are piling up and the weight of the public debt is staggering. This is the wrong time for Congress to grant itself a pay raise, for to do so would only add insult to the desperation of millions of Americans. It would be a signal of contempt and a cruel joke. We in the Congress should not send such signals or play such jokes if the much eroded public confidence in our government is to be restored.